Before we get started on the KLX, I did get the spoke replaced. Let's just take a quick look here. We'll see our run out. Got a good little bit of run out, so we're going to straighten that out. It's got square head, so make for easy adjustment on that. So I'll get that all squared away. But first, it's tool time at the Zippo Ranch. I was watching Double Wide 6's videos, and he had a battery tester, alternator checker, load tester, akin to my Harbor Freight Syntec, like we see here. It's just, well, we don't need to grab battery right now. You guys go over to Double Wide 6. I'll link his channel down in the description. Go look at his channel for the new and much improved and much less expensive, believe it or not, from Harbor Freight. Well, let me just show you. And we've got some other stuff under here too. Alright, there it is. It is called the Topdon RT Battery 101. Alright? And it does a battery test, a cranking test, and a charging test. Really quite comprehensive. So like I say, just view that there real quick if you want to. Go to his channel, check out how that thing operates and everything that it does. $50, and he's got a 10% off coupon over there on his channel too, off of Amazon. And also on his channel, linked down in his description, was a spring puller. Well, I broke my spring puller here a while back and had not replaced it. I was going to make one, didn't end up making one, so I picked one up. And it wasn't very much either, less than 10 bucks. So we'll see how well that holds up. And I like that it's got a nice robust T-handle that's knurled, and it is zinc plated, so it resists corrosion. We've got this really big box here. What's in that really big box? I got a motorcycle jack to use on the lift. And this one came well recommended, and it's also got a hex head adjuster on it. The lift height, I don't remember what the lift height is, but it will, maximum height 340 millimeters. You can get out your calculators to determine what that is in the way of inches. Max capacity 1,100 pounds. Well, this lift is 1,100 pounds. That bike is nowhere near 1,100 pounds, so we don't have an issue there. And this entire video, I've had the microphone facing backwards. I hope you guys heard every word I said. But just a real quick tool time. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to dig into the KLX, and I will show you what kind of goodies we got for it also in the mail. So everything has sort of been, with the exception of the battery load tester, everything has been geared towards making my job a little bit easier. This is called the LiftMaster. I checked out a bunch of reviews, and for the money, you really can't beat it. Nice big wide base. Let's see, does it say? Well, I suppose we can measure it real quick. Let's get our tape measure. Now, there is no rubber feet on the bottom, so we'll have a tendency to slide on that diamond plate, and I'll remedy that. We're at 9 inches wide by 14.5 inches long, so a nice big footprint. And a nice thing about it is you can use hockey pucks or whatever you want and orient them on this plate to get it right where you need to underneath your engine to get it lifted up, and not have to worry about those hockey pucks slipping out of the way. And by the way, that's just a little quick tip for you. Hockey pucks are awesome for doing stuff like this, because over here is my old motorcycle jack, which didn't bring bikes up anywhere near as high, but you can tell from the appearance of it, I've used the stuffing out of that, and I will continue to use it. It's good for real quick stuff, like lifting the KLX110 up to check that the wheels are true and do some stuff like that, so I can just lift it up in the middle. But use the same thing, hockey pucks. A great way to adjust your height so that you can get uneven lower surfaces evened out using the hockey pucks, or wood blocks if you don't have any hockey pucks. But anyway, you can see we have 3 shocks here. On top of having 3 shocks, I already showed you here that I got the replacement spoke taken care of. We're going to true that wheel up we've got to break this old tire off and true this wheel up, get them cleaned up. After we get those two things done, then we have a seal to replace. And you guys might take a look here. This is the replacement. You can see how good a shape it's in. It's in really, really good shape. These are the originals here. If you look at this one, this shaft here is in good shape. This one's all dented up. But if you look, I bought the same side on the one with the good shaft. Well, why did I do that? That's pretty simple. This one was already rebuilt and has a new seal and new fork oil. So I don't have to mess with it at all. All I have to do is install it. So to remedy the problem with this shock upper being all dented up, hammered up, and banged up, I just bought the same side that does need rebuilt, because you can see here I do have some oil here. This one needs rebuilt. I'm going to pull this upper and put it in this lower. That way I've got my left and my right side, and I only have to rebuild one. Make sense? It made sense to me, and that's why I went that route. Now we have to find out where the oil leak is. After I cleaned this engine, the bike started leaking like crazy. And where the oil was coming from, I'm not sure. That's why I've got rags down here. But I have to get the wheels and tires and got my new brake shoes right here for the front and new springs. I've got to get everything put back together on the front and the back to get the bike up on its wheels so that I can take a look up under here, pull the skid plate off, and find out exactly where our oil leak's coming from. That'll make for some tricky camera positioning. But that is where we're at this immediate moment. We're going to progress. I'm going to do things, kick the camera back on, and show you that the things are done. If you want to know how to true up a wheel, there's a ton of videos on it. You want to know how to change a tire, there's a ton of videos on it. I don't need to lather, rinse, repeat that kind of thing when there are so many videos on doing that. Same thing with changing the brake shoes. A lot of videos on it. It's actually pretty cut and dry. You've got two springs, two shoes. Pop springs off, pop the shoes off, put the new shoes on, new springs on. Actually, you can put the springs on before you put the shoes on. Spread it out over here to get it over the cam, and you're back in business. Real quick, easy, down and dirty. But anyway, that's where we're at. Sorry for talking so fast. We also have to address this. You see how it stops at every bearing point. So I'm hoping just loosening up the headstock a little bit will remedy that problem. We'll find out if it does, or if we need to get new headstock bearings. We will see, we will see, we will see. Getting into the engine is probably going to be on video 4. We're not going to get into that now, but we may get to the point where we can take a look underneath and see if we can determine where the leak is coming from. Fingers crossed that Andy's bad luck has stopped with this bike and that we've located all of the major issues. Hopefully that oil leak is a really simple fix. All of these screws have been mucked with, all the bolts have been mucked with the wrong screwdrivers and whatnot. And I kind of got a little bit of a chewing for dissing, I guess, the so-called mechanic who worked on this before. I want everybody to understand, that was all out of frustration. I get frustrated when somebody claims to be something that they are not, and it becomes obvious that they're not when you get your hands on something that they say they have repaired as a so-called mechanic. That frustration stems from years and years and years of getting second-hand jobs where people say, oh, I can fix that. They totally screw it up, like the workhorse wheel horse that came in, the wiring was all screwed up on, I had to redo that. The Simplicity Conquest that came in that I had to redo. Just, you know, some people, when they get their hands in things, they do not do a job that is even adequate. But yet when they go to sell the item, they'll lay claim like, oh yeah, I mean, I can turn a wrench as good as anybody can, and I'm golden as far as there isn't a thing wrong with it. I went through it front to back, and it's perfect. And then you get it home, or get it to a buddy, like Andy sent it to me, and we find out the real story. I get very, very frustrated at things like that. When I get frustrated at things like that, you guys are going to hear it in my voice. You're going to hear me being upset. And I'm not upset at the fact that maybe the person thought they were doing a great job. Kudos to them if they thought they were doing a great job. Shame on them for thinking, I guess is what I'm saying. If you're going to do a good job, make sure it's a good job. Please make sure it's a good job. If you're not sure, if you are not 100% sure if you can do something, it's as easy as getting on YouTube and researching it. I do it. I do it all the time. If there's something that I am not sure of, I want to be 100% sure before I put the first screwdriver in a hole, if it's a JIS or a standard Phillips head. I want to know. There is a definite difference between a JIS screwdriver and a Phillips head screwdriver. It's not super obvious when you're looking at one and looking at another. They both look like Phillips head screws. But you get those suckers right up next to one another and you get a real good close look at them. And you can see the size of the head on the JIS where it comes to a point and the size of the head on the standard. These are both number 3s. Also, your pitch is a little bit different. The width of your blade is different. There are a number of differences between a standard and a JIS screwdriver that, and I mentioned it on one video, you can take a JIS screwdriver and it will work great on a standard Phillips head screw, but it doesn't work the other way around. You can't use a standard screwdriver on a JIS screw. JIS meaning Japanese Industrial Standard. This is a Japanese bike, or this one's Taiwanese, made in Thailand. But you can see clearly the condition of the screw heads, and that is all a result of using an American standard or an English standard screwdriver. And how do you know if it's an English standard screw or if it's a Japanese Industrial Standard? All Japanese Industrial Standard screws have a dot stamped on the screw itself in between the webbing. All of them, or at least 9/10 of them, will have a dot indicating that, hey, I'm a JIS screw, don't use the wrong screwdriver. So that's what I mean by knowing what you're doing or thinking that you know what you're doing, and why Zippo gets a little bit frustrated and a little bit upset. And I've ranted long enough about that. We've got about 13 minutes into this, and I do want you guys to see that Trader is in the shop. Trader is going to be getting a new heartbeat, and that new heartbeat is sitting right there. That is a 18 horse opposed that's going to be going into Trader after I get this bike done. I do have to admit that I did take about 45 minutes out of my day. I went out to the MTD, is it a tradesman or yardsman or whatever that thing's called? Let's go ahead and make this just a what happened video. Tool video, what's gonna happen video, the whole nine. On hold, because it did not win in the polls. Trader won in the polls, but I do have to admit, tradesman. I did come out and mess with the MTD tradesman. I pulled the starter off, lubricated the starter so that the Bendix was working the way that it was supposed to do, put power to the coil, it's a battery ignition coil, battery to the starter solenoid, cranked it over with a hosed fuel tank, and the thing started up and purred like a kitten. That engine runs great. So that's where I'm stopping, because now that engine is going to come out unless somebody wants the whole thing as it sits. And I sort of kind of just hung the tins on there so you guys can get a look at what it looks like as a complete unit. It needs work front to back, but if someone's interested in it without me tearing it apart, let me know ahead of time. I'll leave this video up for a couple weeks. I don't hear anything, the engine's coming out and getting stored, and the rest of it is going to go, sorry for the noise, bye-bye. Alright, I got my work cut out for me. We're at almost 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and cut it. This will be tool time at Zippo's, as well as sort of an update on the KLX110, just showing that we've got some new stuff in, why I did what I did here, the fact that we got the spoke ready for that. We've also got to clean the rims really well before we put the new tube and tire in. Got the new brake shoes, and we are we're moving right along. I just noticed something. See, that's made by my spring puller, Motion Pro. That's what my Beat Buddy 2 is made by also, Motion Pro. Huh. Okay, so there you have it. I'm going to end it. We're at 15 minutes 40 seconds. Friendly Neighborhood Zippo. If you like this video, right down there is my smiling face. Over here, I'm going to link Double Wide 6's video on the meter, and over here is my most recent upload. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.